Mahi was worried about Ranbir, but Mahi was hesitating to call him. She thought, what will I ask him? Anyway, I have never asked him where he is and what he is doing. Then thinking something, Mahi spoke very innocently. What if I didn't ask before? But now I am his wife and I should know why my husband is taking so long to come home. Then she quickly dialed Ranbir's number. Here in his hotel's private room, Ranbir was talking to Vedant and Rudra on a serious issue. Then he placed his phone on the coffee table and started ringing it. When Ranbir saw "My love" written on the screen, he smiled. He received the phone and started talking to it near the glass window. Ranbir said, "Hello sweetheart, what happened? Were you missing me?" Mahi didn't have any excuse to say anything. She said it in a hurry. "No, I wasn't missing you. I was asking why you are taking so long to come." Then Ranbir said, "Baby, I am coming in a while. I have some important work. You go to sleep." Saying this, Ranbir hung up the phone. Then he looked at Vedant and Rudra. Vedant said, "Ranbir, you should go home now." Ranbir asked, "Aren't you going home?" Rudra said, "No. Anyway, we have to meet someone who will give us information related to Vikram and his plan. And if we get to know anything, we will inform you." Ranbir said, I will meet you in the office tomorrow." Saying this, he picked up the car keys and left the room. Mahi had slept soundly until she reached Ranbir's house. The next morning when Mahi woke up, she was still in Ranbir's arms. Seeing Ranbir in front of her, Mahi's heart was feeling a different peace. For a while, Mahi kept looking at him. Then she slowly removed Ranbir's hand from her waist and went towards the washroom. Then she got ready quickly and went downstairs. When Ranbir woke up, Mahi didn't see him anywhere in the room. When she checked the time, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. He was going to go to the office today. Because he couldn't go to the office for the past few days. And he had a lot of pending work. He quickly took a shower and got ready and reached the dining hall to have breakfast. When Mahi saw Ranbir, she quickly set up breakfast for Ranbir with the help of a maid. And she sat on the chair in front of him. Everyone at home had had breakfast. And everyone was busy with their work. At this time, only Mahi was present at the dining table except Ranbir. Mahi wanted to talk to Ranbir. And Ranbir also noticed this. He said while having breakfast, "Do you want to say something?" Mahi quickly said yes to Ranbir's question. So Ranbir finished his breakfast and looked at him and said, "Then ask, why are you thinking so much?" Mahi said, "No, I wanted to say that should I start going to college from tomorrow? My exams are also coming up and I have a lot of holidays too." Mahi finished her sentence. So Ranbir said while thinking something, "You don't go to college for a few days and study online from home." Mahi insisted and said, "But why? I used to go to college earlier too. I want to go to college." Now only Ranbir knew how serious he was about Mahi's safety at that time. And at that time, there was a threat of Vikram Chauhan on Mahi. And until Ranbir closed the chapter of that Vikram Chauhan, he could not take any risk about Mahi's safety. Ranbir said a little strictly, "I am not refusing you to go to college forever. I am just refusing for a few days. So there is no problem about this again. Got it?" Saying this, he went to his room to take his phone. Mahi could not understand what was the problem with Ranbir going to college. At least he should tell the reason. She also went to the room behind Ranbir. Ranbir took his phone and came out of the room. Then he found Mahi outside the room. But Ranbir ignored her and left. Because he could not bother Mahi by telling the reason. And he knew that Mahi would ask him the reason again and again. Mahi was also not one of the believers. She ran after Ranbir and stopped him and said, "I want to talk to you. You can't leave such an incomplete thing and go." Ranbir stopped and took a deep breath. And turned around and saw Mahi, who was looking at him with a big smile. He held Mahi's hand and brought her to the room. and closed the door of the room and tied her to the door. Then he went close to her and said, "Now tell me, what do you want to say?" Seeing Ranbir so close, Mahi's mind went blank. She started looking at him with her big eyes. Mahi said in fear, "I have to go to the college exam." Ranbir said with his hair behind his ears, "No, I will not repeat my words again. So stop being stubborn and listen to me like a good girl." Mahi was getting very angry. She thought in her mind, "I already knew that this devil will do this after marriage." Thinking this, Mahi made a face. But seeing the expression on Ranbir's face, it was understood what was going on in his mind. He smiled and kissed her lips. And left Mahi in his thoughts and left the room. Then Mahi's phone started ringing. Mahi saw Priya's call. She picked up the call and started talking. Priya asked, "Mahi, you are coming to the college from tomorrow, right?" Mahi was sad and said, "No, she said that I should attend online classes for a few days." Priya teased her and said, "Oh, means brother-in-law does not want to keep you away from himself." "Yes, it is a new marriage after all. Distance does not go right." Mahi got angry and said, "Look Priya, anyway my mood is very bad. And you don't bother me." Priya said, "Oh man, I was just kidding. Come on, Tina and I are coming to your house today. Anyway, I didn't meet you after your marriage." Mahi said, Okay, I will also tell Ruhi." Then I talked for a while and hung up the phone. There in Kapoor Industries, Ranbir was sitting in his cabin and checking a file. Then the door of his cabin was knocked. Ranbir saw the file and said, "Come in." After opening the door of the cabin, Ranbir's assistant came in and told Ranbir, "Sir, everyone is waiting for you in the meeting room." Ranbir said, You go, I'll be right there." Hearing Ranbir's words, his assistant bowed his head and left. Ranbir kept the file on the desk in front and stood up and wore his coat. Then he left for the meeting room. Everyone was waiting for Ranbir in the meeting room and were talking to each other about today's presentation. As soon as Ranbir came, the atmosphere there calmed down. Rudra also followed Ranbir. As soon as Ranbir came, he sat on his chair like a king. He looked at everyone sitting there and told them to start the meeting in his cold voice. There was someone else there for whom the meeting was just an excuse. He just had to meet Ranbir. And she was the daughter of Ranbir's partner Vijay Shekhawat, Niharika Shekhawat. She also used to run a business with her father. And just a year ago, she completed her studies from abroad and came back to India. She had seen Ranbir in a party. And since then, she had started dreaming of making Ranbir her own. At that time, she was sitting right next to Ranbir's chair. The meeting went on for about 2 hours. After that, Ranbir suggested everyone and the meeting ended. Everyone left the room. But Niharika still had no intention of leaving. She said to Ranbir, "Mr. Ranbir, if you have time, can you have coffee with me? Actually, I have met you for the first time. And just a while ago, I joined this business. And now I am going to work with you on this project. So I want to talk to you personally about some things related to this." Ranbir listened to her and said, "Okay, so let's go to my cabin. The rest of the talk will be there." Hearing Ranbir's words, Niharika's heart started beating fast. After all, she wanted to spend time alone with Ranbir. In a little while, they were both in Ranbir's cabin. First, Niharika was talking to Ranbir about business. Then she took a sip of coffee and said, "Mr. Ranbir, if you don't mind, can we both go to dinner today?" Ranbir looked deep into Niharika's eyes and placed his cup of coffee on the desk and said, "Sorry, Ms. Niharika, but I am going to spend the evening with my wife." Ranbir was already recognized by Niharika's eyes as to what her intentions were. On the other hand, hearing Ranbir's words about his wife, Niharika's desires seemed to overflow. Still, she was not one of those who gave up. She said with a fake smile, "Oh, no problem, we will go for dinner sometime." Then she stood up and said, "Well, I must go now." Ranbir also agreed and left Niharika's cabin. As soon as she came out, Niharika's face was full of anger. She said to herself, Ranbir Roy Kapoor, whether you are married or not, but I will get you at any cost. Then she walked away. On the other hand, Vedant had come to Kapoor mansion for some work. When he heard someone playing in the hall, he stopped there on his own. Priya, Tina, Ruhi and Mahi were talking in the hall. Seeing Priya, Vedant's face smiled and he moved towards her. Priya, who was still laughing and talking to everyone, suddenly became quiet after seeing Vedant and started staring at him. When Mahi saw Priya's reaction, she followed her eyes and looked at Vedant, who was looking at Priya with a sad smile. Seeing both of them like this, Mahi thought to herself, it's all over, now there will definitely be a war here. Ruhi was also thinking the same thing, when a maid came and said, Ma'am, the food is on the table. The rest of the family had already had lunch, but the four of them had not had lunch yet. Mahi stood up and said, Come on, let's have lunch. Then she remembered that Vedant had not eaten either, so she asked Vedant, Vedant, you also have lunch with us. Vedant just needed a chance to bother Priya and he got it. So he got ready for lunch. Now Vedant and Priya were sitting face to face, while Mahi and Ruhi sometimes looked at Vedant and sometimes Priya. Poor Tina could not understand what was happening here. While staring at Vedant, Priya was burning the thorn on the food in her plate, as if the thorn was digging into Vedant's chest. But Vedant was having a lot of fun seeing Priya's expression like this. While eating, he was turning his tongue on his lips again and again, which was very irritating to Priya. Meanwhile, Mahi and Ruhi were looking at both with scared eyes. Ruhi pointed at Mahi and slowly said in her ear, Come on, let's get out of here. Otherwise, we will also get into trouble. There is going to be a bomb blast now. Will Mahi be able to know why Ranveer is stopping her from going to college? Will Ranveer be able to save Mahi by doing this? Will Niharika be able to succeed in her intentions? To know more, stay tuned to Oh Baby, only on Love Pulse Diaries.